If you've ever bought digital games on Xbox, PlayStation, or PC, or anything from Steam, Epic Games, or Google Play, here's a shocking truth. You own absolutely nothing. The companies own everything, and they can lock you out tomorrow without explanation, without refund, without legal recourse. It's been this way for decades. Millions of gamers have lost access to thousands of dollars worth of digital games due to account suspensions, some for violations, some for errors, some for no clear reason at all. Most of the time, the tech companies simply won't talk to you about it. Your game library vanishes, your investment disappears, and there's nothing you can do about it. Until now, one gamer just won something unprecedented in the digital age, a court order forcing Microsoft to restore his entire account and his complete digital library after his account was suspended and locked. This isn't a settlement. This is a legal victory. And this win might just change how tech companies treat your digital purchases forever. The gamer owned an Xbox account for over a decade. He'd built a substantial digital library, games he'd purchased, DLC he'd invested in, achievements he'd unlocked. Everything was tied to that single account. Then one day, Microsoft suspended it. The official reason, terms of service violation. But when he tried to get specifics, Microsoft refused. No detailed explanation, no appeals process, no timeline for reinstatement. Just a blanket suspension, and his entire digital collection locked behind an inaccessible account. Think of it this way: imagine you walked into your local bookstore one morning and the owner said, "You're banned from reading these books now," but wouldn't explain why, wouldn't let you appeal, and wouldn't let you sell them to someone else. You paid for them, they are on the shelf, but the owner has final say on whether you can access them. That's how digital games work right now. Most gamers accept this and move on. There's no official appeals process. Fighting a tech giant in court sounds impossible, but this gamer decided he'd spent enough money to be worth fighting for. He hired a lawyer and sued, arguing that Microsoft's one-sided terms of service violated consumer protection laws. He claimed the company couldn't take away paid digital products without proper justification. It was a long shot that just might work. Here's where it gets interesting. The gamer's legal argument rested on a simple but powerful principle. When you buy something, even digitally, you have consumer rights. Microsoft's terms of service said they could suspend or terminate access anytime for any reason, and that you'd have no recourse. But the gamer's lawyer argued this was unconscionable. It's a legal term meaning shockingly unfair. The argument went like this: you paid real money for these digital products. Microsoft profited from that sale. Under consumer protection law, they can't simply take away purchased goods without fair process or compensation. It's the difference between a subscription service, where you understand you're renting, and a purchase, where you expect to own it. Microsoft's counterargument was blunt. The terms of service are clear, users agree to them, and digital purchases are licenses, not ownership. But the court didn't buy it. The judge ruled that regardless of the legal terminology, when a gamer pays money for a game, they've developed a legitimate expectation of continued access. Revoking that access unilaterally, without clear justification, violated the player's consumer rights. The ruling wasn't just a technicality, it struck at the core of how tech companies operate. And that's just the beginning of what this means. So how many people does this actually affect? Millions, tens of millions, actually. Microsoft has over 25 million Xbox Game Pass subscribers. Steam has over 120 million monthly active users. Epic Games reported over 500 million registered accounts. Each of those accounts represents someone who's invested money in digital games they can't physically possess or transfer. And account bans happen constantly. Some are justified, genuine terms of service violations, but others, they happen due to billing disputes, mistaken identity, security breaches, or system errors. There's the story of a gamer who lost a 3,000-game Steam library due to a single false flag. Another lost 20 years of PS4 progression because of a payment method issue. These aren't edge cases. The data suggests that somewhere between 2 and 5% of long-term gaming accounts face some form of suspension or restriction. That's potentially 2 to 6 million Xbox players, 2 to 6 million PlayStation players, 2 to 6 million Steam users. We are talking about hundreds of millions of dollars in digital game purchases held hostage by corporate policy. One suspended account might mean losing games worth $500 to $5,000, money the gamer paid, games they can't play, and no legal path to recovery. Until this lawsuit. But here's what changes everything. Before this ruling, tech companies had been getting away with this for years. Apple locked Jean-Claude Massey out of his $25,000 app development account with zero explanation, and it took public pressure to get it restored. Google disabled the account of a Stadia user with 300 games, no reason given. Epic Games has banned players from the entire Epic Games store over alleged cheat detection false positives. And Sony's been terminating PlayStation accounts for years, sometimes for subjective reasons like suspicious activity or violating community standards without specifics. The difference is none of those companies faced a lawsuit, and none had a court rule against them. They all relied on the same legal shield: terms of service, take it or leave it, no appeals. Microsoft was counting on that same shield. The company's lawyers probably assumed they'd win because they'd always won before. Courts had consistently sided with tech companies on these disputes. The terms of service is a contract, and you agreed to it. End of story. But this time, the judge looked at the bigger picture, the reality of digital economies, consumer protection laws, and the specific harm being done to a real person. A court finally said, no, these terms are too one-sided, and that's the precedent that changes everything. So what does a single court ruling against Microsoft actually mean? More than you'd think. First, it's now on record that a judge believes digital game purchases create consumer rights. That's a precedent. Other lawyers representing gamers in similar situations can point to this case and say, look, a court already agreed with us once. Second, Microsoft will almost certainly appeal this ruling, but they are now looking at a situation where the courts are scrutinizing their practices. That creates liability and uncertainty. Companies don't like uncertainty. They like predictable terms of service. This ruling introduces risk. Third, and this is the big one, it signals that the era of we can do whatever we want with your digital purchases might be ending. Tech companies have been operating on the assumption that terms of service are basically law. This ruling says they are not. Not completely, not anymore. Regulators in the European Union are already moving toward digital rights legislation. The United Kingdom is tightening consumer protection laws, and now there's a court ruling in a major tech market saying digital purchases deserve actual consumer protection. That's a lot of pressure on the entire industry. Microsoft doesn't want this becoming a trend. Apple doesn't. Google doesn't. They are going to lobby hard to make sure digital purchases stay legally undefined. But they just got put on notice. In the meantime, what can you actually do to protect your digital games? First, back up your offline games. On PC, if you own a game on Steam that has an offline play mode, download it and save a copy. Yes, it's technically against Steam's terms of service, but if your account gets suspended, that backup is your insurance. Second, use strong account security. Two-factor authentication on everything. This blocks the most common reason accounts get compromised or suspended: weak passwords leading to unauthorized access. Third, keep records, screenshot your library, document the games you own, what you paid and when. If you ever need to fight back, that evidence matters. Fourth, read the actual terms of service. I know nobody does this, but know what violations could get you banned. If you're buying games and spending real money, it's worth an hour to understand the rules. Fifth, spread your collection. Don't keep everything on one platform. Diversify across Steam, Epic, GOG, and console libraries. If one account goes down, you don't lose everything. Sixth, buy from stores that let you own offline copies when possible. GOG and some indie platforms are better on this. And finally, seventh, consider supporting this legal fight. If you see other gamers facing account bans, that precedent is going to matter. The more courts rule like this, the safer your digital purchases become. This lawsuit is about more than one person's game library. It's about ownership in the digital age. For the last 15 years, tech companies have told us you can't own digital products, you can only license them. They've written it into terms of service, built their entire business models around it, and courts have backed them up. But now a judge has said, maybe not. Maybe when you pay money for something, especially over time with DLC and purchases stacked on top, you've developed a real ownership interest. Maybe the company's power over your access isn't absolute. That's a seismic change. The gaming industry will adapt. Microsoft will appeal. Legislation will probably come next, either to clarify gaming rights or to protect corporate interests, depending on who lobbies harder. But the conversation has changed. If you care about digital rights, if you've ever worried about losing your game collection, if you believe companies shouldn't have unilateral power over digital purchases, this ruling just gave you ammunition. It proved in court that the consumer has a point, and that matters, so follow this case. If you have thoughts about digital game ownership, share them. Vote with your wallet when you can. Support platforms that respect player rights, because that one gamer's lawsuit just proved something the industry didn't want proven. Courts can side with players. And when they do, everything changes.